Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we are going to deep dive into one of the most powerful features of Claude Code, which is slash commands. Now, if you've been using Claude Code and only know about few commands like slash help or slash clear, you are leaving ton of productivity on the table. By the end of the video, you'll know some very important commands and when to use it, and even how to build a command of your own. So let's get right into it. So first, let's start by understanding what is slash commands. So on the PPT, you can see slash commands are the fastest way to control Claude Code. Instead of typing full instructions, one command trigger complex operations instantly. So when you're using Claude Code sessions, you're usually typing in prompts, right? Telling Claude what to do. Slash commands are a bit different. They tell Claude how to behave or they perform actions on the session that you're working on itself. You type a forward slash, then the command name, that's it, and the Claude executes it immediately. Now, slash commands are of two types. First is built-in commands and the custom commands. So, built-in commands are the commands that come directly shipped with Claude, whereas custom are the one that you build on your own for a day-to-day use. Now, the slash commands can further be distinguished into two parts. One is project-based slash commands and one is global slash commands. So for project-based slash commands, what you have to do is inside your project, you'll have to create a .claude directory. Inside that's a command folder, and inside that your personal commands or project-based commands. You can do the similar thing on the root level. That is, on the root level, you'll have a .claude directory. Inside that commands and your personal slash commands. That is your global slash commands. Now, what is the use case of both? Project based slash commands are normally shared via Git, so the whole team has access to those. So, hence, they help in enforcing some kind of rule or convention or standards to a team. Whereas global based slash commands are helpful for you. You use it on your day to day basis for the personal use. You don't normally share those with the team, hence, those are used by you itself. Now enough with the PPT part, let's get right into practice and explore a few slash commands. So now, before we start exploring slash commands, let's understand what is the project we'll be using to explore slash commands, okay? So what I'll do is, I'll copy the path, I'll go to Chrome, I'll paste this, okay? Now here you can see that this is a basic task application whose name is task flow, and you can basically add tasks, mark tasks as done, and so on. A basic task application. I also built this using Claude itself, okay? So now let's start with exploring slash commands, keeping this as a context, okay? Now the first slash command that we'll be exploring is slash init, which is one of the most important slash command in Claude. So if I do slash init, okay, so basically slash init will create a claude.md file which acts as a Claude's brain for your project. It holds the coding conventions, architectures, notes, libraries, anything you want Claude to remember. Run this at the start of every new project that you're working with Claude. So now you see when I started typing in it, it understood the project and it is generating a claude.md file for me. So I'll allow the edits for this session, and you can see it generated a claude.md file for me. Now if I preview, you can see how to run the app, what is the architecture, what are the key patterns and everything else. Okay. So every time you type anything or like execute any prompt, it will always have claude.md as a reference. So keep this as a constant prompt or a memory that is being passed to Claude with every prompt. Now next is something called as add-dir. So if I do this add -dir, okay, you can see you can add a new working directory. So let's say you're working on this project. but this project also depends on some other project, and you want the context of that project to be loaded in this session. So you can do that using add-dir. So for example, I have an snake application for me in a different window. So let's say I ask currently, do you have any friends? So you can see it says it does not have any reference to snake application. Okay. So now what I'll do is I'll go inside this cd.dot. I'll copy this path, and then I'll go here and I'll do slash add-dir, and I'll paste this, and if I press an enter, I'll do yes for this session. And now if I ask the same again, do you have any reference to snake application? Now you can see it shows that yes, it has a reference to the snake application. So let's say you're working with a front end and a back end application on different directories. You can add a back end reference to a front end project using add-dir. Now the next important command that we are going to explore is slash models. So now here you can see I have 3 different models available, and the default is Sonnet 4.6. So we have Sonnet, Opus and Haiku models to choose from. So Sonnet models is very good for day-to-day tasks, and it consumes an optimized amount of tokens. Whereas on the other hand, Opus consumes a lots and lots of tokens. So when you're working with a very logic intensive task or a very important task, in that case you can use Opus, since this has one of the best logical reasonings available. So normally what is the convention? The convention is that for planning a huge task or the architecture of a project, you use Opus, and for the code generation part, you normally use Sonnet. Haiku you can use for quick and fast answers like a question and answer format. For that, Haiku is quite good. So I'll press an escape in order to close this particular prompt. Now the other important prompt that we have is /config. So if I enter, you can see I have various different configs available here, and I can change the config values. Learned all the commands that we can use for a project setup. Now let's understand some session management commands. So before that, let's understand what is a session. So current Claude terminal that you can see is open here. So individual Claude terminal is called as sessions. For example, if I type in Control C, you can see I've exited Claude. Now if I open Claude again, you can see a new session is open for me once I type in Claude. So now let's start by understanding some few session commands that we have. So first is /resume. So let's say you exited an session earlier. Now let's say if you want to resume the same session, I can type in /resume, and then it can give you all the sessions available here. So earlier, this is my earlier session. I'll just enter, and you can see the session is live for me again. Now another command that we'll explore is called as /compact. So what this command does is basically, so let's assume you have been working with a session for a really long amount of time. So what would happen is basically the context window for this particular session will become very huge. That is, it will have context to a large amount of prompts / commands that you have given. So what compact will basically do, it will compress the earlier messages into a summary. So you can keep going through the session without actually losing the memory that this session holds. Okay. So now similarly, let's say you want to clear the context that you have in this session. So for that you can use /clear. So this will basically clear all the context that this particular session holds. So now there's another very important command called as /rewind. Okay, so for example, let's say I have this index.html open here. Okay, so you can see the name of this application is task flow. Okay, so what I'll do is I'll ask Claude to change the name of the So now what I've done is I've asked Claude to change the name of the application from task flow to tasks. So I'll allow all the edits for this session. So once this is changed, if I refresh this file, you can see this now says tasks. So it updated all the references of task flow. So now let's say I want to rewind these changes, or I want to undo these changes. So what I'll do is I'll do /rewind and I'll hit enter. Now it will ask before which conversation do I want to rewind this to. So what I'll do, I'll select this and hit enter. I'll just say restore code. So now it has restored the code. Now if I go back and if I refresh, you can see this says task flow again. So this is how you can rewind to previous tasks or conversations that you have. Now we have another important prompt called as /memory. So what this does is, using this you can update the memory, that is claude.md file for that project. So if I type in /memory and hit enter and I'll select project memory, it will open the claude.md file, and now I can edit and make changes to this file in order to update the memory of Claude. Now we have another important command called as /btw, that is / by the way. So for example, I want to make some changes. Okay, I'll just give the same changes again. Change the name of the application task flow to tasks. Okay, I'll hit enter. Now if I type in /btw and I ask what is JS, so what it will do is it will answer me the question, but in the background it will continue working on the tasks thing. So you can see it has given me the answer to it, and it has made the changes that were needed. Now another important command that we have is called as /rename. So what you can do is you can rename the name of this particular session that is going on. So for example, I'll rename this session to project init and hit enter. You can see it has renamed the conversation or session. So what I'll do is I'll exit this session and I'll do Claude -r. So you can see I have a project init session available here. Now that we have learned about some context and session management commands, let's go ahead and learn something about code review and code debug commands. Okay, so in this first command that we have is basically called as review. So let's say currently this is not part of any Git repository, but let's say if it was and it had some PRs, in that case review will automatically ask you which PR you want to review, and it will review that PR for you. Similarly, we have /diff. So if I let's say hit this command, it will ask you what do you want to check. So T6 is basically turn 6. What changes were made in turn 6 and turn 1. So let's say if you want to review the changes made in turn 1, you can hit enter and you can see what all changes were made here. So this is how you can use /diff command for you. Now another command is called as /plan command, where it will plan a particular change. So for example, let's say if I wanted to improve the UI of the application. So it will plan all the improvements that are needed for this. So now based on the plan, it will ask you a few questions. So let's say I put in visual polish here and I hit submit. I'll do submit answer. Now you can see the Claude Code will switch to plan mode. So now you can see it has written a whole plan of what it wants to do. Category colored left border and lots of things. So if you want, you can use it in auto mode. It won't ask before it makes any changes. You can put it into a manual approval mode, or you can give some kind of change that you want here apart from the plan. So for now I honestly don't want to change anything, so I can just exit using escape. Now I can use shift tab in order to change the modes. So you can see when I press shift tab it goes to auto mode, and when I press shift tab it comes to a normal mode. Now that we have learned a few commands for code review and debugging, let's understand a few commands to understand usage. So if you type in /usage, it will basically give you what is the usage and which model basically costed you how much for this particular session or overall. So you can see I have used 23% of the current session, and current week all models 4% has been used. Okay, so I'll escape in order to close the window. So now next is something called as /effort. So this basically tells Claude how much thinking effort should it put inside a particular thought. So for example, when you plan, it uses thinking in the background. So how much thinking, what is the level of effort it should put into its thinking, that is what you can adjust using /effort. You can test which effort works best for you based on a project and set it accordingly. Now that we have understood how to use various different slash commands, let's go on and make a slash command of our own. So in order to do that, what we'll do is we'll ask Claude to do the same. So what we'll be doing is, since this is the front-end web application, okay, so what I would want is basically in case of front-end applications, we normally use lorem ipsum as placeholders for text. So I'll ask Claude to create a slash command which will generate lorem ipsum for me. Okay, so let's do that. Okay, so now what I have done is I've asked Claude Code to create a slash command for me which will generate lorem ipsum for me. Okay, so it will take the number of paragraphs and characters as an input argument, and it will generate lorem ipsum based on those. So I want this to be project scoped only. I don't want this skill to I don't want this slash command to be global scoped. Okay, so I'll hit enter. So I will allow all the edits for this session. So now you can see it has created the slash command for me. Okay, so how do I know it was created? I can go inside Claude, I can go inside commands, and here you can see lorem.md, which is basically a md file for the slash command. This contains the instructions of what it has to do. Okay, so it accepts two arguments, which is paragraphs and characters, and based on that it will generate a lorem ipsum for me. Okay, so if I try to type in /lorem, you can see it won't be populated in my slash commands list. Okay, for that what I'll have to do is I'll have to start a new Claude context. So I'll exit this. /exit can be used now to exit this session. I can do Claude again, and if I do /lorem, you can see it is accessible now. Now I'll do slash lorem and then I'll give in, let's say, two paragraphs of 40 characters each. So you can see it generated two paragraphs for me and with 40 characters. Now the skill that is here, it's currently only project scoped. Okay, so let's say if I have another terminal and this is outside of the project context. Okay, so now if I try to type in Claude here and I try to search for slash lorem, you can see the lorem command is not present for me here. So as we saw earlier, we could not see the lorem command in the command window earlier. Okay, this was because lorem was a project scope command. Now let's say if I push this to a git directory and someone is cloning to it, then they'll also have access to this lorem command because it's pushed inside the .claude directory. So whenever you are making any new commands which you want to be used inside the project, make sure to add them to git repositories so that other can take advantage of it. Okay, so now let's understand how I can make this lorem command global. That is, I should be able to access it throughout and from everywhere. So for that, what I'll do is I'll ask Claude itself to do it. So what I've asked is basically I want the lorem slash command globally update the global Claude settings. So I'll hit enter. So I'll allow this. So now here you can see it has detected that it has to add this particular slash command inside my .claude slash command directory, which is in the root folder. So I'll just do yes. So now it has made the changes for me and I'll do yes. Okay, so now the slash lorem command is now present everywhere. How do I verify this again? I'll just copy this path. I'll go inside my terminal. I'll open a new terminal. I'll do cd and paste this. And if I do ls, I should see commands. I'll go inside commands. I'll hit ls. Now you can see I have lorem.md file. So that means inside my root Claude directory, I have inside commands I have lorem.md. Okay. So now what I'll do is I'll close this again, close this session. I'll open a new Claude session. And if I try to type in slash lorem, you can see the lorem slash command is available for me, and it is a user defined command. It is not a predefined command. Now again I'll do the same thing. I'll give two paragraphs of 40 characters each, and you can see it has generated lorem ipsum for me. Now in this video we have learned in depth about what are slash commands and how you can create of your own. If you find this content valuable and helpful, please do consider liking, sharing and subscribing, since this keeps me motivated in order to make more such videos. Thank you for watching.